Elon Musk had seen it all. Long nights at Tesla factories, employees working tirelessly to meet deadlines, and engineers pushing the limits of innovation. But nothing could have prepared him for what he saw that night. It was nearly 3 a.m. when he walked through the dimly lit Tesla parking lot, his mind buzzing with ideas about the next big project. His routine nighttime visits to Tesla facilities were nothing new. Musk often prided himself on being the last to leave and the first to arrive. But as he made his way toward his car, something unusual caught his attention. A Tesla Model 3 sat a few spaces away, its windows fogged up from the cool night air, condensation forming a thin mist over the glass. A faint glow flickered inside, a phone screen illuminating the cabin for just a moment before fading to darkness. His instincts kicked in. Someone was inside. Stepping closer, Musk peered through the glass. Inside, curled up in the driver's seat, was a young man, his breathing slow and steady. He was asleep, his body awkwardly folded in a way that suggested exhaustion rather than comfort. A Tesla company badge rested on the dashboard, revealing his name, Zach Carter, a junior software engineer. Beside it, a small, crumpled paper bag suggested he had eaten dinner right there in the car. Musk's sharp eyes scanned the rest of the vehicle. A blanket was hastily thrown into the back seat. A half-empty bottle of water sat in the center console, and a stack of technical manuals, filled with handwritten notes and dog-eared pages, lay in the passenger seat. This wasn't just a quick nap between shifts. This was something much bigger. Most CEOs wouldn't have given it a second glance. Some might have called security, assuming the employee was slacking off, while others might have ignored it altogether. But Musk wasn't like most CEOs. He knew dedication when he saw it, but he also recognized struggle. There was a reason this young engineer was sleeping in his car instead of heading home, and Musk needed to know why. Without hesitation, he raised his hand and knocked on the window. The sharp sound cut through the silence of the night. Inside, the young man stirred, his face twitching slightly before his eyes flickered open. It took only a second for recognition to dawn upon him. Elon! Zach's voice was barely above a whisper, hoarse from sleep, but filled with disbelief. His expression shifted from confusion to sheer panic as he scrambled upright, his mind likely racing with worst-case scenarios. Musk didn't react right away. He simply stood there, arms crossed, his gaze locked onto Zach with a mix of curiosity and calculation. He could see in the young man's face the fear of being reprimanded, the worry of losing everything, the unspoken story that had yet to be told. This wasn't laziness. This wasn't negligence. This was something deeper. But what exactly had led Zach to this moment? Why was he living out of his car? And more importantly, what was Musk going to do about it? What happened next? No one could have predicted. Musk's response didn't just change Zach's life. It sent shockwaves through Tesla and beyond. Stick around to find out what happened next. And before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss a moment like this. Zach's heart pounded as he scrambled to straighten his posture, his mind still clouded with the remnants of exhausted sleep. His body ached from countless nights spent curled up in the cramped backseat of his car, but none of that mattered now. Not when he was staring straight into the eyes of Elon Musk. Of all the people who could have found him in this moment, it had to be the very man who built the company he had dreamed of working for his entire life. His mind raced through every worst-case scenario. Was he about to be fired? Was this going to be the end of his career at Tesla before it had even truly begun? Musk, however, remained silent at first, his eyes scanning Zach in a makeshift living space crammed into his vehicle. Empty coffee cups, a neatly stacked pile of technical manuals, and a laptop resting on the center console still opened the lines of Tesla's system code. The billionaire wasn't one to show emotion easily, but there was something unreadable in his expression. He wasn't just looking at a tired employee. He was analyzing the situation, processing every detail, calculating the why behind it all. After a long pause, Musk finally spoke. "How long have you been sleeping in your car?" Zach hesitated, the weight of the question pressing on him. He could sugarcoat the truth, make it sound like this was a one-time thing, but deep down he knew Musk wouldn't buy it. There was no point in lying. With a deep breath, he answered honestly, "A few weeks." Musk didn't flinch. Instead, his voice was steady but curious. "Why?" Zach sighed, running a hand over his face as if trying to wipe away the exhaustion permanently embedded in his features. "I moved here from out of state for this job. Rent's ridiculous. I thought I'd be able to manage, but between my student loans, car payments, and everything else, I just couldn't keep up. I figured I'd tough it out for a little while, sleep in my car, save up, and get a place once I could afford something decent." The words lingered between them, filling the empty silence of the parking lot. Zach braced himself for a reaction, maybe frustration, maybe disappointment, or even worse, outright dismissal. But Musk's face remained unreadable, his mind clearly turning at full speed. Zach had heard stories about Musk's relentless work ethic, how he pushed himself and his teams to their absolute limits. But even in those extreme cases, no one talked about employees living in their cars just to make ends meet. This wasn't just dedication, it was survival. Musk's eyes flicked down to the pile of technical manuals on the passenger seat. He reached out, flipping through one, noticing the meticulously handwritten notes filling the margins. These weren't casual scribbles. This was deep analysis, equations, calculations, software optimizations. Musk recognized some of them immediately. They weren't just standard textbook notes. They were insights, solutions to complex engineering problems, the kind of thinking that set apart great engineers from average ones. He looked back at Zach, his curiosity deepening. "And through all of this, living in your car, running on almost no sleep, you're still putting in full shifts?" Zach nodded, forcing himself to stand straighter despite the fatigue weighing down his limbs. "Yeah, I get in early, leave late. It's easier that way. No one really notices if I stick around after hours." Musk raised an eyebrow, his expression shifting slightly, though he still gave nothing away. "And you're spending your free time studying Tesla system architecture on your own?" Zach swallowed, his throat dry. "I have to. I can't afford to fall behind. I didn't come all this way just to fail." For the first time that night, Musk smirked. That was the kind of answer he respected. Pure determination, an unbreakable will to succeed. But something about the situation still didn't sit right with him. No employee that dedicated should be reduced to sleeping in their car just to chase a dream. A sudden flash of headlights swept across the parking lot as another car pulled in, one of Tesla's senior engineers arriving for an early shift. The moment was fleeting, but it was enough to shift something in Musk's demeanor. His decision had already been made. "Come with me." Zach blinked, his mind scrambling to process what he had just heard. "Wait, where?" Musk didn't answer immediately. He simply motioned for Zach to follow. "You'll see." Still half in shock, Zach grabbed his jacket, his exhausted mind struggling to comprehend what was happening. Whatever came next, one thing was certain. His life was about to change in ways he never could have imagined. Zach followed Musk through the dimly lit Tesla facility, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Just moments ago, he had been convinced his career was on the verge of collapse, fearing that being caught sleeping in his car would be the final nail in the coffin. Now, instead of being reprimanded or dismissed, he found himself walking side by side with Elon Musk, heading toward an unknown destination with no idea what awaited him. The contrast was almost too surreal to process. The hallways of the Tesla headquarters stretched before them, lined with high-tech workstations, illuminated screens, and engineers engrossed in their work. The soft hum of robotic arms adjusting intricate machinery filled the air, mingling with the low murmur of conversations between teams solving problems that most of the world wouldn't even begin to understand. Despite the high-energy environment, the space felt eerily silent to Zach, his nerves amplifying every footstep that echoed off the metallic floors. Musk remained quiet, his long, purposeful strides giving no hint as to what was going through his mind. Finally, they arrived at a door Zach had never been through before, one marked with restricted access label. Musk swiped his keycard, and with a soft beep, The lock disengaged. The door slid open, revealing an advanced engineering lab, a hidden sanctuary of Tesla's most classified projects. The room was a stark contrast to the corporate offices Zach was used to. The scent of soldered metal and fresh circuitry filled the air, while half-assembled prototype vehicles and experimental battery components lined the walls. The space buzzed with innovation, each station representing the cutting edge of Tesla's future. Musk stepped inside first, gesturing for Zach to follow. The young engineer swallowed hard and obeyed, still unsure if this was an opportunity or a test. Musk strode over to a workstation, where a glowing tablet displayed lines of complex system diagnostics. He studied the data for a moment, then turned the screen toward Zach, his piercing gaze analyzing his every reaction. "I've seen your work," Musk said matter-of-factly, his voice calm but firm. "You've been troubleshooting issues outside your department, coming up with optimizations no one asked for." He tilted his head slightly. "Why?" Zach hesitated, searching for the right words. His palms were slightly clammy, his mind racing through possible responses. But there was only one truth. "Because I see things that could be improved," he finally admitted, his voice steady despite his nerves. "And if I know I can make something better, I can't ignore it. I have to fix it." A flicker of amusement crossed Musk's face, as if he had already expected that answer. "Good," he said simply, placing the tablet in Zach's hands. "Then prove it." Zach's breath caught in his throat. He glanced down at the screen, and the moment he saw the data, his pulse spiked. The issue displayed on the screen wasn't new to him. It was a problem he had been analyzing on his own time for weeks. He had suspected a bottleneck in Tesla's latest software update, but without access to the necessary tools, he had been unable to test his hypothesis. Now, Musk was handing him exactly that opportunity. The room seemed to close in around him, the presence of senior engineers now watching him with subtle intrigue. Zach's fingers twitched over the screen, his brain already running through the calculations. He didn't hesitate. He started working. Minutes passed, though to Zach, it felt like mere seconds. His mind was in overdrive, adjusting formulas, tweaking lines of code, refining algorithms at a speed that even surprised himself. The tension in the room thickened as the engineers around him leaned in slightly. Their curiosity piqued. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation. Then suddenly, the notification flashed. System optimization complete. A beat of silence followed. One of the senior engineers leaned forward, his eyes scanning the screen in disbelief. "That's impossible." Another stepped in, checking the results. "This was the issue we've been stuck on for weeks." He glanced at Musk, shaking his head in amazement. "And he just fixed it in, what, 10 minutes? Zach exhaled, only now realizing how hard he'd been gripping the tablet. His chest rose and fell in deep breaths, the reality of what he had just accomplished setting in. But Musk wasn't surprised. He gave a single nod, a flicker of approval in his otherwise unreadable expression. "That's what I thought," he muttered. He then turned to one of his lead engineers. "Get him out of the car and into a proper workspace." Zach blinked. "Wait, does that mean—" Musk's smirk deepened. "It means you're not wasting your potential anymore." The words hit Zach harder than he expected. His journey, from a struggling employee sleeping in his car to standing in Tesla's top-tier engineering lab, had changed in an instant. His sacrifices, his determination, his refusal to accept limitations, it had all led to this. This wasn't just a promotion, it was validation. And as Musk clapped a hand on his shoulder and said, "Welcome to the real team," Zach knew this was only the beginning. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video. Your support helps bring attention to real stories of resilience and innovation. Now let's dive deeper. As the weight of the moment settled in, Zach's initial surge of excitement was quickly overshadowed by something heavier: scrutiny. Not everyone in the room shared Musk's enthusiasm. Some of the senior engineers exchanged glances, their skepticism palpable. They had spent years proving themselves, working through Tesla's notoriously high-pressure environment, and suddenly, an entry-level employee, someone who had been sleeping in his car just hours ago, had been thrust into the spotlight. It wasn't just admiration that filled the air. It was doubt, unease, even resentment. "Elon, we can't just put him on major projects overnight." One of them finally spoke. His voice was measured, but there was an undeniable edge to it. "This isn't some hackathon. These systems run Tesla's backbone. If he makes a mistake, it's not just a small bug. It's millions lost in production downtime." Musk, always a strategist, didn't argue. He simply nodded. "Fair point," he said. "Then let's push him." Zach barely had a moment to process what that meant before a new problem landed in his hands. This time, it wasn't a theoretical bug. It was an ongoing factory failure. One of Tesla's main production lines had suddenly shut down, and every passing second meant thousands of dollars slipping away. The team of senior engineers had already been working on the issue, scrambling to pinpoint the fault, but nothing was adding up. It wasn't a hardware failure. The AI-powered robotic arms weren't responding properly, but the software logs weren't flagging any obvious errors. They had thrown every known troubleshooting method at the problem, but the system remained locked. And now, Musk wanted to see if Zach could fix it. Zach's fingers hovered over the tablet as he pulled up the live diagnostic feed. Unlike the last problem, where he had prior knowledge from his personal projects, this was entirely new. His heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't just about proving himself anymore. This was about proving he wasn't just a lucky fluke. The entire room was watching. Some were waiting for him to stumble, to hesitate, to prove their doubts right. Others were just curious, eager to see what Musk had seen in him. Zach's mind raced through possibilities. He scanned the real-time system data, looking for patterns, anomalies, anything that seemed out of place. The interface was complex, lines of code flashing across the screen. But suddenly, a small inconsistency caught his eye. It wasn't in the main system logs. It was buried deep within the sensor calibration records. The AI, which controlled the precision of Tesla's automated production, had received misaligned data from one of the optical sensors. The factory's robotic arms hadn't failed. They had paused themselves intentionally, misreading the environment around them due to a tiny but critical input error. If this wasn't caught soon, it wouldn't just be a delay. It could cause serious damage, potentially derailing production for days. With a deep breath, Zach executed an override command. He reset the sensor alignment, forcing the AI to reprocess the correct environmental data. For a few 10 seconds, nothing happened. The air in the room was electric. Then, with mechanical whir, the factory line came back to life. The response in the room was immediate. Some of the senior engineers leaned in, double-checking the logs, unable to believe what they were seeing. One of them, his skepticism now replaced with reluctant respect, muttered, "There's no way he should have caught that so fast." Musk? He just smirked. "And yet," he said, "he did." Zach exhaled, his pulse still pounding in his ears. The doubt that had filled the room moments ago had vanished. The problem hadn't just been fixed, it had been solved faster than anyone had expected. But as he stood there, the adrenaline wearing off, another thought crept into his mind. If a simple calibration issue had completely halted a Tesla production line, what other vulnerabilities existed? If his fresh perspective had caught something the experienced engineers had missed, what else was hidden beneath the surface? And more importantly, how far could he take this? Little did he know, this wasn't the end of his journey. It was only the beginning. The moment the factory roared back to life, it was clear Zach wasn't just another employee anymore. He had gone from a nameless technician in the background to the person who had solved a problem that had baffled some of Tesla's brightest minds. It wasn't just about fixing a machine. It was about proving that true innovation can come from anywhere. But this wasn't just a win for Zach. It was a wake-up call for everyone in the room. Musk didn't immediately shower him with praise, nor did he celebrate the solution. Instead, he turned to the senior engineers, his piercing gaze scanning the group, and asked a simple but profound question. "How did he see it before you?" The engineers shifted uncomfortably. One of them finally spoke, his voice hesitant yet honest. We were looking for a complex issue, something worthy of our expertise. We overlooked the obvious. Musk nodded, a slight smirk forming. That's the problem. A shift in perspective. At Tesla, every engineer was trained to think big, to solve problems at a massive scale. They were used to pushing the limits of technology, reimagining the future, and tackling challenges that seemed impossible. But Zach had reminded them of something crucial. Sometimes, the biggest breakthroughs come from stepping back and seeing what others ignore. His success wasn't luck. It was a mindset, one that questioned, observed, and refused to assume the answer was always buried in complexity. And Musk saw potential in that. Zach wasn't just given a handshake and a thank you. Within days, he was assigned to a new team, working alongside some of Tesla's top engineers. Not as a junior technician, but as someone whose perspective was now valued. He wasn't just fixing problems after they occurred. He was helping prevent them from happening at all. But the real moment of transformation came when Musk casually asked him one afternoon, "So, what's the next big problem you want to solve?" Zach hesitated. This wasn't a test. Musk wasn't asking out of politeness. He genuinely wanted to know. Taking a deep breath, Zach said, "Tesla's automation is powerful, but it still reacts to problems after they happen. What if we build an AI that predicts failures before they occur?" For a moment, Musk was silent. Then, with a small, knowing grin, he replied, "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need." And just like that, Zach wasn't just an employee anymore. He was an innovator, a story that sparked a movement. Zach's story didn't just stay within Tesla. It spread like wildfire. It became a symbol of how raw talent, when given the right opportunity, can change everything. Industry leaders took notice. Executives began questioning their own hiring practices, wondering how many hidden geniuses they had overlooked. Companies began reconsidering how they identified potential, not just looking at degrees or titles, but at the ability to think differently. Musk himself saw the significance of this moment. He announced a new Tesla initiative, a program designed to find more Zachs, hidden talents within the company, people with sharp instincts and problem-solving skills who just needed a chance to be heard. For Tesla, it was a game changer. For the tech industry, it was a revolution, a life forever changed. As for Zach, he no longer slept in his car, exhausted and unseen. Instead, he was leading projects, collaborating with the very people he had once admired from afar. His name was known, his ideas respected, and his future transformed. He had walked into Tesla as a nameless technician. He walked out as a key part of the company's future. And all it took was one moment of courage, one chance, and one person willing to listen. And just like that, a single moment changed everything. What began as a simple case of an exhausted employee sleeping in his car unfolded into one of the most unexpected and inspiring success stories inside Tesla. Zach's journey wasn't just about solving an issue. It was about shattering expectations, proving that talent isn't always found where you'd expect, and that hard work can outshine even the most polished resumes. This story is bigger than Tesla. It's about recognizing potential in places where others fail to look. How many brilliant minds go unnoticed simply because they don't have the right connections, the perfect degree, or the conventional path to success? How many groundbreaking ideas are left unheard because they come from someone in an unexpected position? Elon Musk saw what others missed. He recognized that true innovation doesn't care about titles. It doesn't wait for approval. It doesn't follow the rules of corporate hierarchy. Zach wasn't just another technician. He was someone who thought differently, worked relentlessly, and refused to settle. And that's exactly the lesson here. Opportunities don't always come wrapped in perfect packaging. They don't announce themselves. They show up in unexpected ways, disguised as challenges, setbacks, or even rejections. What defines success isn't just skill. It's the ability to recognize when it's time to step up and prove yourself, even when no one is looking. Now, think about your own journey. How many times have you been overlooked? How often have you had an idea that could change everything, but no one took it seriously? The truth is, talent is everywhere, but only those who refuse to be ignored will ever break through. Fire if you believe that persistence beats privilege. Smash that like button now. Let's get this story to those who need to hear it. We also want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where you proved someone wrong? Have you ever been underestimated, only to come out on top? Drop your story in the comments below. We read every single one. Rock it. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. Movie Camera, we bring you the stories that inspire, challenge, and remind us all that success doesn't belong to just a select few. It belongs to those who are willing to fight for it. Hit that bell icon so you're always the first to know when a new story drops. Because in the end, success isn't about where you start. It's about how hard you're willing to push forward, no matter the obstacles in your way.